that in order, then we'll do YouTube. All right. Or TikTok. All right. Yeah, I can tell it's being normal already looking at it. Very weird. All right. TikTok. TikTok at least is ready. Go live, TikTok. All right. Hello. See, I can even see it's normal now. Yeah, that was my browser memory eating into it. All right. TikTokers, welcome to Fantasy Island. Hello, Richard. Hey, Grumpy. Ocean. There we go. All right. TikTokers are here. Woo, woo, woo. Woo, woo, woo. There we go. We were having a little bit of a YouTube problem. TikTokers. Sorry, I'm starting late. Normally we start on the hour-ish, but YouTube was having an issue. Actually, my browser was having an issue eating up all my memory, and I had to restart YouTube. So anyway, hello, TikTokers. Here I am. It took a while. All right. Well, at least the speed will be better on YouTube. So I think it was worth the wait. Hey, Bappo. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fantasy Island. How are we all doing today? Welcome to my show. As you guys know, thank you, Ash. As you guys know, we talk about the latest news. We often do the news from Washington. Then we touch on Ukraine with the war going on between Israel and Iran. I'm going to focus on that today, mostly, just because I think it's too important. But, Richard, you're the only one with no picture, I suspect, on TikTok. Somebody want to or actually, if Richard can hear, if anybody, whenever you have problems on TikTok, leave and come back, because not always, but often it's just your TikTok being goofy for your connection. Anyway, you guys can see. Thank you. Hello, TikTokers. Anyway, so welcome, guys. Yeah, so we're going to talk Israel and Iran today, since obviously big story. Think adventures, a lot going on. I think very interesting. We do talk about Russia and Ukraine, but we've had like 2 days of a war in the Middle East that could engulf the world. Like, I thought maybe you guys could handle talking about something else for 2 days. It'll be okay. You'll be fine. You'll survive. It's okay. We're going to talk about the Minnesota murders a little bit later. I did just start because we got a little bit delayed because my web browser was messing up the YouTube feed. So we had to cancel YouTube, recreate the show. Oh, thank you. We have a dragon over on TikTok. Whenever I do that, it's kind of weird for you guys, but it's the dragon, the very cool dragon gift over on TikTok. I know our taco sessions. So anyway, so welcome, guys. Yeah, we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about Israel and Iran because you know what? Kind of a big story. I don't think it's going to be a world war, but it's a huge story. And it keeps going. It keeps growing, which is interesting. I mean, it's a very interesting story as well, but also a very dangerous story. That's the racing car. Thank you, Succeed. That was generous of you. Thank you. I was curious what that gift was, actually. Supposedly, Iran's biggest battle is tonight. Do you mean Iran is threatening they're going to throw the most weapons or throw the most missiles tonight at Israel, you mean? Thanks, Jazek. Thank Gothic. It's possible. Now, it's been kind of interesting. So, I mean, okay, thanks, Mark. I've got sort of a bunch of stuff we're going to go through, but basically, the war is heating. Well, the war is heating up in that Israel's hitting a lot of different targets. I'm going to sort of walk you through some of them. Iran is hitting fewer targets. Iran has less precise missiles. So Iran kind of just throws them and kind of like Russia is doing in Ukraine to some degree. They don't really care where they go. So they kind of hit civilian buildings. They hit everything. The Israeli ones are more precise. They are hitting mostly military targets, but the Israelis are hitting so many targets that you're still getting civilian casualties on both sides. But it's been heating up since this weekend. It started on Friday. We haven't had I did my show on Saturday for the paid subscribers, but as I sort of, it has been, the tenor has been increasing in a way in that Israel's been broadening their attacks beyond just purely military targets at the same time that Iran has been doing it too. You can argue Iran started it. For example, this weekend, Iran went after an Israeli oil refinery. So Israel said, okay, oil's on the table, we'll go after your oil refineries. Now, in Iran's case, not totally safe for them to do. Israel needs its oil refinery, but Israel is not like an oil producer like Iran is, right? Iran is OPEC. Iran is one of the biggest oil producers in the world. Thank you, Adventures, for the gift. It is very risky for Iran to be basically for Iran to say, okay, let's go after oil fields is kind of dumb, because that is like Iran's big moneymaker, right? It seems a little dumb to me. I'm not sure why they did it, but in any case, so they've been going after like oil refineries and things back and forth. Israel today did, thank you, Lee, did go after Iran's state television network. Now, you've got to understand a couple things here. Iran, brutal dictatorship. Iran has killed between 11, I looked this up before I came on the show, between 11,000 and 30,000 political prisoners have been put to death in Iran. I'm talking, again, political prisoners, dissidents, people killed because they disagree publicly with the regime. 11,000 to 30,000 people. That's a hell of a lot. I mean, we got our problems here. So far, nobody's been killed for disagreeing with Trump, right? Although we've got problems. Thank you, Big Hawk. Thank you, Ash, for the gifts. In any case, so the state TV in Iran is the communications arm, the propaganda arm of the dictatorship. Well, Israel blew it up today. It was kind of interesting because basically, I don't want to show you. There's a video. You can Google the video out there. YouTube, I never know how it would be. TikTok will not like this video. Basically, you've got a woman in the help me out. I used to know what these are called. She's wearing the outfit, in Iran. It's not just a hijab. Is it a hijab? Or is it the other? I'm forgetting the name. The one that like covers the head, a chador hijab. Although you all do this to me every time. I'm getting multiple things here. Burqa. I don't think it's a burqa. I think it's a hijab. I think it doesn't matter. You all know what I mean. Covering the face, right? Or only the face is showing. And she's very angry, yelling at the TV. And she basically, Israel bombs the studio while she's on the air. I mean, she's kind of yelling at the TV. You get the sense she's yelling about Israel and the war. And Israel bombed the studio, took out the entire. No, she's fine. She's fine. I mean, you're sensing some bias. Oh, Fairs. First of all, you're leaving because I don't trust you. Yeah, this show is not a fan of dictatorships. This show is not a fan of terrorists. This show is not a fan of state sponsors of terrorism. So you are correct. You might call that bias. I call it humanity. But Iran, in its 45 years of the Ayatollahs running the country, has consistently been a state sponsor of terrorism to a degree that is unimaginable. As I said, killing up to 30,000 political prisoners. It's not Israel, no. It's really not. You can criticize Israel all you want for Gaza, but killing 30,000 political prisoners, that's not Israel. That's Iran. Supporting terrorist groups around the entire Middle East for 45 years, that's Iran. Blowing up the Marine barracks for the U.S. Marines in Lebanon in 1983, it was Iran's proxies that did it. Blowing up a synagogue and a Jewish community center in Argentina, who do you think that was? That was Iran. Again, working with its terrorist friends in the Middle East. Iran has committed literal acts of terrorism for 45 years. It is considered a state sponsor of terror for that reason. Destroying Lebanon, destroying Syria, destroying Yemen, supporting horrific terrorist groups in each country. In Yemen, Assad, the evil dictator in Syria. Lebanon, Iran has destroyed. Ask somebody who's Lebanese how they feel about Iran. I mean it. Ask somebody who's Lebanese how they feel about Iran. Iran has destroyed that poor country. Lebanon was literally considered the Paris of the Middle East. Beirut, especially. Beirut. Considered a just beautiful French city. And the Iranians have destroyed that poor country. Basically, what Iran has done is they have been using other countries to do basically proxy wars against Israel. So they're using Syria, they're using Lebanon, they're using Yemen, and in the process, destroying them. By the way, who do you think's been giving the weapons to the Houthis? You know the Houthis, the terrorist group that runs half of Yemen, that's been attacking international shipping, blowing up all the commercial ships. Who do you think is giving them the weapons? Iran. Yeah. So Iran's state television, the propaganda arm of the government got blown up today. Iraq too, actually, that's a good point. Thank you. Yeah, Alessandro, Iraq as well. They've been supporting, I think it's the Shias in Iraq as well. This is just, it's really, what's important about this is one of those topics where you need to do your research because, and I always say this, on this show, we stick to facts. We stick to facts even when they're uncomfortable. Anybody will tell you when we talk about Joe Biden and Iraq and Ukraine, I'm as critical of Biden as it gets on Ukraine, right? And some of the Democrats don't like that. Thank you, Shelby. They didn't love that when I would criticize Biden. Too bad. Biden deserved criticism on Ukraine. Thank you, Ventures. Thank you, Craig. And on this topic with this war, people need to do two things, or not even two things. Well, you do need to do two things. One, you need to learn who Iran is. And when I say Iran, I mean the government, of course. Iranians, great people. I think most people are great people, to be honest. I think pretty much every country is made up of really cool people. But we have a lot of Persians in the DC area. So I've known a lot of Iranians through the years, really neat people. And very, very educated, very professional. The ones in DC area, always very, very professional class. I mean, the Iranians in this area, wow, just very educated crowd that certainly came into the DC area. But what people are making, some people I think are making a big mistake with what's going on with Iran and Israel. You're upset at Israel for Gaza, so you think per se Iran is okay. You think the Iranian Ayatollah is a good guy because you're upset at Israel. And the problem is, it is entirely possible that Israel is doing the wrong thing in Gaza. And it's also equally, what I mean is that can be true. And it can also be true that Iran is a terror supporting government, a state sponsor of terror, a government that has destroyed countless countries in the region, and a government that is trying to get a nuclear weapon. And it's a very dangerous government trying to get a nuclear weapon. Just because Israel has done bad things in Gaza does not change the history of who the Iranian government is. And this should be obvious on its face, right? And I mean, it is. The two aren't related. Right, exactly. Well, as Sora is saying, bad things is an understatement. I'm also trying to be a little careful, Sora, because TikTok doesn't like it when we explain things in the extreme. So I'm careful about that. The problem is talking about Iran as a terrorist state. It is hard not to talk about the extreme. But yeah, so that's my point is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think of Israel. And what I mean is it's irrelevant. You could be right. Those of you writing nasty comments about Israel, you could be right. That doesn't change whether Iran is trying to get a nuke. They are. And whether Iran is a dangerous country that is a state sponsor of terror and is one of the most evil governments on the planet. And that one of the most evil dictatorships on the planet. It is. It doesn't change the fact that the Iranian government has killed as many as 30,000 of their own people simply as political prisoners because they disagree with their politics. They killed them. None of that changes that. So that's, anyway, it's an important point. Let's go through the details, but it's an important point because I do mean it. I think people make this confusion that Israel doesn't like Iran, so Iran must be good. And no, it's really not the case. It doesn't matter what you think of Israel. Judge Iran separately. Iran is bad news. Anyway, but let's continue. So since Saturday, Israel has hit Iranian nuclear and military infrastructure. Iran today indicated through intermediaries in the Arab world that it wants to talk again. Wall Street Journal reports Iran wants to talk. When I say Iran, of course, I mean the Iranian government. The Iranian government wants to reopen negotiations about their nuclear program. And at first we're like, oh, that's nice, right? Then I read the rest of the article, and there's a line in the article that the same Arab intermediaries who say that Iran has told them to pass the message along that Iran wants to reopen negotiations about its nuclear program say that there is no indication that Iran is ready to make new concessions. So the same Arab governments who are passing along Iran's request to say, please, we'd like to negotiate. We want to negotiate about the nukes. Let's stop the war. At the same time, the Arab governments who are passing the message say, but Iran hasn't changed its position. It's not willing to negotiate, but it wants negotiations if Israel will stop bombing. But in those negotiations, it's not willing to offer anything new. Well, then, why should Israel stop at this point, right? Israel is winning. Israel has more weapons. More Iranians are getting hurt than Israelis. So if you're from an Israeli perspective, right, your country is suffering less than the Iranians. Israel is winning by all demonstrable, measures. The Iranian economy is in trouble. There were some interesting reports this weekend, and I saw one today about Tehran. And basically, people are having a hard time in Tehran, which is the capital, getting gasoline. They can't get enough gas, and they're trying to get out of the city. They can't get gasoline. They've got to wait in line for 4 hours. They're having a hard time getting food. A lot of the grocery stores are closed. The electricity is getting cut off. It's a mess. And frankly, it's going to get worse because as this goes on, Iran keeps hitting civilian targets in Israel, and Israel will start going after not civilian as in, apartment buildings on purpose, but going after civilian things. Maybe they will take out the power and things. They're not supposed to, but if Iran keeps doing it, Israel will probably do it back. So that's what I meant where it's escalating what's going on with this conflict. And Iran so far kind of keeps blustering and saying, like today, for example, Iran had said, actually somebody mentioned this earlier, Iran did say something earlier about, oh, you just wait till tonight. They're going to hit Israel really hard tonight. Well, if you hit Israel really hard tonight, Israel's going to hit you even harder. It's bad. The nuclear facilities. So Israel has been trying to take out Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities, basically. And I'm not a nuclear. Well, it's funny. I did do arms control like 40 years ago, but right now I'm not exactly a nuclear expert. But in order to build a nuclear bomb, you've got to enrich uranium. You have to make the uranium really pure. You need like 90% or more, whatever. Iran has enriched uranium to at least 60%, but there is some evidence that Iran has enriched uranium up to 83%. Why does that matter? Because when you get to 90%, you've got bomb material. And it's pretty easy to get from 60 to 90. Well, Iran's got two major enrichment facilities. One of them, if you've been following the news, you'd see these names. One of them is called Natanz. I'm not going to pronounce it well, but let's just say Natanz. And the other one is Fordow, F-O-R-D-O-W. Natanz is a lot of it's, so that these are facilities that Iran uses to purify the uranium. And you need a really pure uranium to make a bomb, nuclear bomb. Well, Natanz, a lot of the facility is above ground. So it's easier to hit, right? Because it's above ground. So Israel is hit Natanz, and the BBC reports that the UN is reporting that it is very likely all the roughly 15,000 centrifuges operating at Iran's biggest uranium enrichment plant in Natanz were badly damaged or destroyed because of a power cut caused by an Israeli strike. So the thought right now is that, according to the United Nations experts, that Iran has lost the ability to refine uranium, enrich it at that one plant, which is great. It's one of Iran's big plants. The bigger problem that you keep hearing about is Natanz isn't the plant. It's not the factory where you make the uranium for the bombs. You kind of get it ready. Natanz is mass production. They do a lot of it, and they get it to 60%. Then they send it to the other facility, the super duper secret facility, right? Fordow. I'm not going to pronounce it right. Fordow. And that's the one that refines it to 90%, which makes it bomb worthy. That's the facility that's super duper underground. That's the facility that's deep inside the mountain. It's like 80 meters, 200 feet down inside a mountain. Lots of cement, etc. In principle, Israel does not have bombs that can go that deep. in principle, only American bombs can do it. There's a bomb. I'm forgetting the exact number. You guys have the number, but it's a 30,000-pound bomb. It's enormous. Only American bombers, like a B-2 bomber, can carry the bomb because it's so heavy. And this is why there's been talk about Israel not being able to destroy all of Iran's nuclear program because some of it's in the mountain that Israel bombs cannot reach. This is also why there's discussion about whether the Americans would get involved and why the Israelis want the Americans to get involved, because the Americans are the only ones with the bomb that can reach it. Now, having said that, Pingu just said you could send special forces to blow it up. Israel is very good at taking out Iran's nuclear program and hitting targets in general. As you know, when the war started on Friday or Thursday night in America, the Israelis had pre-positioned drones and other weapons inside Iran for months, kind of like the Ukrainians did in Russia. They're very, very good at this, right? So the Israelis previously have blown up nuclear facilities in Iran. They've used, they both used viruses to blow up and ruin some of these facilities and the centrifuges and things. As you know, in Lebanon with Hezbollah, the terrorist group there, the Iranian-backed terrorist group Hezbollah in Lebanon. See how all this ties together? Remember when Israel blew up all those pagers? Who did those pagers belong to? The Iranian-backed terrorists in Lebanon, right? I mean, Iran has its hands in all of this. Well, the same way that Israel was able to blow up the pagers, Israel was able to infiltrate Iran to pre-position weapons. They even have some Iranians working on their side. It's certainly possible Israel has another why would I call it the Islamic Republic? I'm sorry, but what is that? I'm sorry. Somebody just said, call it the Islamic Republic. Why? It's Iran. Why? You cannot record me crazy. No. My recordings are here on the show. I don't want people taking my recordings. Yeah. So in any case, the idea is you need to hit this other facility, and it's so deep that only the American bombs can do it, unless Israel is able to pull something off, and maybe it can, right? Sneaking spies inside, who knows? But that's why the discussion of the U.S. getting involved. Now, Trump has been kind of all over the place. Very weird, actually. All weekend, Trump has been totally all over the place. He has not reportedly, thank you, Tara, or Tara, I'm calling you Tara, Tara. You got me in Middle East mode. I thought you were Tarad, who we get a lot, usually Tara. Sorry, I was going to say with the, hang on a second, looking. Oh, Trump. So Trump has been all over the place. Israel attacks. Our Secretary of State says, we've had nothing to do with it, right? And basically his entire statement was, U.S. had nothing to do with it. Don't touch us. Trump then the next day says, attaboy Israel, and totally endorses the attack, basically, right? Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Mustard. Then we get news reports that over the weekend that the Israelis were going to take out the Iranian president, the Ayatollah, and the Iranian leader, the Ayatollah, and that Trump told them, no, don't do it. Then some Israelis came out and said, no, he didn't. Right? He didn't say that. Then we've got Trump saying the U.S. isn't going to get involved. But then we find out that the U.S. allegedly has been refueling Israeli planes and certainly has been helping Israel block incoming missiles. We know that. Okay. Now last night we hear, and this is true, that Trump sent over 30 airplanes as part of a refueling effort to Europe. Like they're the planes that are used to refuel long-range bombers, the kind of bombers the U.S. would use to blow up Iran's nuclear program. But they were sent to Europe, and everyone's trying to figure out what's going on. Well, clearly what's going on is Trump is pre-positioning them if he decides to attack Iran. Is he doing it just to threaten Iran, to basically say, because Trump at the same time has been saying, Iran, I'm going to give you one last chance to negotiate, and you better do it, right? So Trump, God only knows, Trump has been playing this Iran, you better watch it. But at the same time, Israel, maybe we don't want you to go to, remember the story also was that that Trump didn't want Israel to go to war at all, supposedly. I think Trump is playing both sides. He's playing a cute game. I'm not even sure he's tacoing now. En français, quoi? Je peux pas le faire tout en français. I mean, je peux, mais il y a beaucoup de monde qui va pas comprendre. Or qui va pas comprendre, pardon. Sorry, somebody was telling me to speak in French, I think. I see that's what I do. I go on my little tangents. You guys know I go on my tangents, and then what I'm talking about goes out my head. What were we talking about? Trump. So it's not clear what Trump is doing. I'm not sure he's tacoing. I'm not sure he's flip-flopping. I think in Trump's mind, he thinks he's playing this cute game of, I say I don't want, for example, then the story came out this weekend that Trump said publicly he didn't want Israel to attack as part of a feint, as part of a trick to trick the Iranians into not knowing, right? I mean, so like, who knows why Trump is saying what he's saying? But Trump is kind of all over the place. Trump's base is no friend to Iran, but they also don't like the military. They don't like using the military. Well, they certainly don't like using the military, Trump's base, at all for anything. Maybe going after China, maybe, but otherwise they're not really in the mood for anything. So that's another thing Trump is dealing with. Now, from an American perspective, Iran, I mean, and this is sort of the conundrum for the Americans and for the international community too. As somebody who has worked in Washington for 40 years, practically, who has worked in politics at the national level in America, so I think I understand American politics pretty well. I think that the U.S. will never accept Iran getting a nuclear weapon. I think that the U.S. will bomb Iran if they think Iran is going to build a nuclear weapon. Meaning is now going to do it. Iran is going to build a nuclear weapon, but they've been holding off. So that's why you keep hearing, they're 2 weeks away, a month away, whatever. And I was even reading on the 2 week thing. The 2 week thing bothers me a little bit because I was reading more about it today. It's a bit of BS potentially, because it's not really 2 weeks to build the weapon. It's 2 weeks to get the nuclear material ready for a bomb, but then it could take 6 months to develop the bomb, and it could take another 6 months to get it on a missile. So it's a little bit of games to say 2 weeks. But the point is, Iran has gotten very close to what it needs to get the nuclear material it needs to create a nuclear bomb. But it's going slowly, but really it's almost like, that game or whatever it is where every step forward, you take half a step, and the next step, a quarter step, and then an eighth of a step, right? You go very, very slowly. Iran has been intentionally going very slowly, but they're still slowly going towards building a nuke. My analysis of the U.S. government and U.S. policy is there is no way America will let Iran get a nuclear weapon, that we will go to war before we let Iran get a nuclear weapon. That is what I think will happen. I am convinced of that. Therefore, looking at that, you look at what's going on with Israel now. And I think Israel jumped the gun, assuming Trump wasn't part of it. Because, by the way, now, who knows? Trump could have been a part of the whole thing with Israel. I mean, now that we know Trump has been kind of playing games, he could have, Netanyahu could have told Trump about this month ago, and Trump said, sure. I mean, who knows, right? But let's pretend Trump didn't know until the end that Israel was going to attack. We would have liked Israel to have waited. We would have liked the negotiations to go on a little further. Having said that, Trump gave the Iranians 60 days to negotiate and reach a deal, and they were dragging their feet. So it's not clear the negotiations would work. But the position America is in right now is, did Israel force our hand? because I keep, even there was an economist writer who's their Middle East guy, who was kind of saying this today. He said, "Oh, Netanyahu, America only has a few options. Cave to Netanyahu." I'm paraphrasing him, and I responded. I was like, "Cave to Netanyahu." The Americans, I think, at some point, the Americans will bomb Iran's nuclear program, unless Iran does something magnificent in the negotiations, like giving up all of their ability to enrich uranium, meaning to make the bomb material. Otherwise, I am convinced the U.S. will bomb them. Therefore, Israel has done it too soon, potentially, but Israel is doing exactly what we would have done. Thank you, Lily. And let me rephrase that. Israel is doing exactly what we will do. So from an American perspective, it gets interesting because at some point, we're going to have to go after Iran's nuclear program if they don't agree in negotiations to stop it. So what's the difference doing it now? Israel has already softened things up. Israel has already taken over the airspace, which is super important, in terms of military folks here can tell you better than I, but how important it is to get control of the airspace. Israel has already ruined the one nuclear enrichment plant, but the more important one, Israel may not be able to reach, America can. All I'm saying is, I think it's a much more complicated question as to whether Trump gets involved. It's not an obvious, he won't get involved. And it's not, I will go one step further. Thank you, Carla. It is not an obvious, America shouldn't get involved. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced we should, because Iran will go after our military bases. They will unleash terrorism or try in Europe and America, right? So, I mean, it could be bad, and it could cause, they could close the oil going through the Strait of Hormuz, right? Which is the oil that other Arab countries use as well to export, or I should say the strait, that little land sort of bit of water they could cut off. So, which would cause oil prices to go crazy. I mean, it could cause a lot of problems, but the problem for the U.S. policymakers is, I think the U.S. is going to go after Iran militarily someday anyway, unless Iran caves in the negotiations, and I don't think they will. So let's see. Anyway, the U.S. has not been bombing Iran. No. The U.S. has been, sorry, because Charles was asking, the U.S. has gone after Iranian surrogates, right? So Iran's been playing games using its people like Hezbollah and the people in Iraq and everyone else to go after U.S. troops. And then we bomb the Iranian surrogates. Now, I shouldn't say it. The one thing we did go after was when Trump killed Soleimani, who was a big, was he the head of the Revolutionary Guard? His exact title? Super high up general in Iran, super high up. And Trump killed him back in 2000. And the Iranians were pissed. I mean, obviously they should be pissed. I mean, I'm glad he's gone, but they should be pissed. Head of the Quds Force. Okay. Which is still another huge military force in Iran. So that was, but otherwise we tend not to, no, the U.S. tends not to, attack in Iran, et cetera. No. Anyway, so I'm trying to think. I mean, there's lots of details. I'm trying to think here. Hold on a second. I kind of wanted to sort of get into that sort of overview stuff. We don't really need to go through all the details. But let me look here. I went through the Trump stuff, the refueling planes, which are important. Yeah, let's keep talking about this. So I'll stop with Israel does have nukes. Israel has maybe 100 nuclear weapons. Hard to say how many. Why Iran can't have a nuke? Because it's a terrorist state. Run by a government that's one of the worst governments on the planet, far worse than Israel actually, has supported terrorist groups around the world, blew up 43 U.S. Marines, blew up synagogues in Israel. Why would Trump post everyone leave Tehran? When did he do that? Somebody else was talking. Did he though? Is that confirmed? I saw somebody on TikTok saying check Truth Social, but I wasn't sure what you were referring to. Just now? He did not. Hold on. I mean, I believe you. I'm saying he did not as in, oh my God. Hold on a second. Let me pull up. I think they're public. I have a very good list about Israel and Iran of people I follow on TikTok. Oops. Hello, TikTok. There it is. Okay. This sounds like the U.S. is going in. Trump, thank you for pointing that. And the people on TikTok who said, go check Truth Social, thank you for mentioning that, by the way. Trump just tweeted, Iran should have signed the deal I told them to sign. Trump was negotiating with Iran the last 60 days. He gave them 60 days to reach a deal. Thank you for the gift there. Who was that? Jackie? He gave them 60 days to reach a deal, and it now is 64, 65 days now. He gave them 60 days, and that was it. And they didn't. He wrote, Iran should have signed the deal I told them to sign. What a shame and what a waste of human life. Simply stated, I'm going to show you guys this. This is exactly what I just told you guys about the U.S. position. He said, I told them to sign. What a shame and what a waste of human life. Simply stated, all capital letters. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. All capital letters, which is what I've been saying. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. That threat, okay, what Trump just said is the U.S. Trump is, as again, longtime political Washington person. What Trump means is, we don't know if it's true though, because Trump plays games. What that means is the U.S. is going to bomb Iran, is what that means. That is the intimation, that is the implication. That doesn't mean we're going to. But Trump, when he says everyone should immediately evacuate, he means we're going in. Now, knowing Trump, because keep in mind too, Trump is not the best strategist on the planet. Trump might mean that, actually, Darren just said war is bad. Trump might just mean war is bad. The Israelis plan on doing a lot of bad stuff to Tehran. They plan on taking out the water supply and I'm making this up, but maybe they plan on taking out the water supply and the energy, right? So that you're not going to have power, you're not going to have water. Maybe that's what he means. And it's totally possible. But the way this is written means the U.S. is entering the war. Now, here's another thing. Here's another thing that's interesting that we don't know. We don't know what U.S. intelligence has on Iran, for example. The Israelis were claiming that Iran was moving even closer to building a nuclear bomb than we thought. I don't know, right? If that were true, and if Trump saw, if the U.S. had such intelligence and believed it, this is what I was getting at before. If the U.S. thinks Iran is trying to build a nuclear weapon, meaning they've said we're building one, we are going to go all out and build it now, then the U.S. will bomb to take out the system, the whole nuclear structure, the nuclear industry. The U.S. will. This is exactly what I told you. The U.S. will never allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon, ever. And that's what Trump is saying. And he's right. By the way, he's totally right. And part of the issue there's a couple issues here, because somebody said, why is Israel allowed to have one? Well, Israel has one. I would say, why is Russia allowed to have a nuke? Because they shouldn't. And why is North Korea allowed to have one, and Pakistan and India? None of them should, but they do. You can't really get rid of it once you got them, except poor Ukraine, because Ukraine, thank you, Dave, unfortunately gave up its nuclear weapons, and it never should have, because Ukraine trusted all of us in the West, especially America and Britain, France too, though, promising to come help it if the Russians ever invaded, and the Russians promised not to invade, and they invaded anyway. And then we didn't really help them. Not really that much. But the point is, once you got nuclear weapons, good luck getting rid of them. Israel's got them. No one's going to get rid of them. Iran doesn't have them yet. Iran doesn't get to get them. It is a terrorist state. It is a bad government. It's an evil government. It does not get nuclear weapons. No, thank you, Dave. It's just the way it is. I mean, life isn't fair in international relations. You can't kind of say, well, why did Israel get them? Iran should get them too. Nuclear weapons don't work that way. No. But yeah, like I said, Iran has killed up to 30,000 political prisoners. The U.S. has not. Israel has not. Israel is a democracy. Iran is not. Israel is doing bad things in Gaza, but Israel is a democracy. Iran is not. Israel does not kill political prisoners. Iran does. 30,000 in Iran, dead. Iran is a dictatorship. Women are not free in Iran. Israel, they are. I mean, there's a lot of differences. I'm just saying, like, it annoys me a little when, as I said, don't use your dislike or hate or whatever word you want to use of what Israel is doing in Gaza to somehow reach a conclusion about Iran's government is not okay because Israel is doing bad things in Gaza, right? That is called a non sequitur, right? Israel can still do bad things in Gaza, and Iran can still be run by a terrible, evil government that is a dictatorship that kills its own people and supports terrorism around the world. Both of those can be true. So it does not help the argument to say Israel's really bad, so Iran must be okay. No, that's not the way it works. Anyway, that is wild from Trump, though. That is absolutely, as we said, for Trump to say that sounds like the U.S. is going in. I don't know whether it is going in, but that absolutely. Well, he can, Michelle. Here's the problem. Michelle said he cannot congressionally do this. Unfortunately, he can. The last time the U.S. declared war, I think was, I don't even know the last time we declared war. Did we ever declare war after World War II? Like actually declare war? Even in Iraq, in 93, I'm not convinced we declared war. I was there for the war. It was like a war resolution. I was on the Senate floor at the time watching the vote because I was working for a U.S. senator. But thank you, Pillowhead. I didn't think so. Yeah. So it was, but I don't think Iraq was a war. I think I was there for the vote on the Senate floor, and I'll bet you, though, it wasn't a declaration of war. I will bet you it was some other kind of statement. The problem is that, thank you, DNC. The problem is that presidents aren't supposed to go to war without congressional approval, without the Senate specifically approving, because the Senate declares war. What's happened since World War II is the presidents kind of go to war anyway, and they don't need congressional approval to do it. So for Trump, for example, to bomb the nuclear facilities, first of all, Trump's going to say, I'm not going to war. I'm taking out a nuclear site, or I'm taking out their nuclear sites, right? He's going to say it's self-defense, for example, for international law purposes. So yeah, legally, constitutionally, he's supposed to get the U.S. Senate to give him permission, but it should be well established that presidents don't need to, since World War II, which has now been 80 years. So, yeah. So, I mean, you're not wrong in asking the person who asked that and said, doesn't he need to get congressional permission? You'd think so, and you're not wrong, but in practice, it no longer works that way. All right, let me just look here to see what else we got going here. Yeah, this is, okay, Axios now has a story on it. Let's see, because Axios is very good. President Trump called on Iranian civilians to immediately evacuate Tehran on Monday evening, providing no additional details about what was coming. It's not immediately clear what triggered Trump's post. Israel has been conducting strikes in Iran. Tehran is home to around 10 million people, with around 17 million in the metropolitan area. Yeah, and again, there's already blockages of people trying to get out of Iran. They can't get enough gasoline to get out of Iran. Yeah, UN approval works the same way. I mean, good point. SoCal says it helps to have UN approval. But what most governments do is they say self-defense. And, legally, who's going to go after you? You know what I mean? I mean, it just, we always claim self-defense. I mean, in this one, and even what Israel did this one, legally by international law standards, what Israel did was questionable. Because, and I'm trying to remember, it was preemptive versus, there's two P words. I'm forgetting there's preemptive, but what's the other one, Darth? There's two of them. There's preemptive, and then there's the other one, and Israel did the one that you're not allowed to do. Basically, meaning you're preventative. Okay, thank you, preventative. And you're allowed to do the one that stops the imminent attack. right? So if the other guy's getting ready to attack you under international law, you are allowed to go in and hit him first. You are not under international law allowed to go in and hit the other country simply because they're your enemy. They don't like you. You don't like them. And they keep making a stronger and stronger military. No, just right. Unless they're, in other words, in this case, Israel, legally under international law, Israel would have to show that Iran was preparing to attack Israel. And even maybe preparing to build a nuclear weapon would be sufficient. But you'd have to, you can't just say Iran has these nuclear facilities and someday they plan on building them. That's not enough. Having said that, you know, and it's funny, I'm a lawyer I went to Georgetown, you know, I mean, Darn just said international law doesn't mean anything. International law doesn't mean a lot, really. It'd be nice if it did, but it really doesn't. And typically, most governments just say it was self-defense. You know, you're a lawyer too. You know, most governments just say self-defense and they get away with it. You know, but it is true that Israel was using the weaker argument that isn't really a good argument, saying, well, someday they're going to come after us, so we're going to stop them now. Yeah, you have to kind of be saying it's imminent or something. I'm sure Trump's comments are all over the news. Absolutely. I'm trying to see what else. Yeah, like everyone's looking at Trump's comment as saying it's like a declaration of war. Literally everyone is quoting Trump's comments here online. I'm going to have to do a video for TikTok when we're done with this. Because I'm on with you guys, I can't do my video, but it's okay. I like the show. Wow. That's just, I'm looking here. Yeah, that is the big story, is Trump saying that. Now, again, as I said, he pre-positioned the U.S. Refueling planes. He moved like 30 or more of them last night to Europe. He's moving in another aircraft carrier from, I think it's in Asia. There was already one in the Middle East, and he's moving a second one now from Asia. He's moving in some other ships that are good at intercepting missiles and things. You know, now one thing that's been interesting actually is Russia. Russia and Iran have some kind of mutual defense agreement thing. And Russia had threatened a while ago, like, don't you dare go after Iran, Israel, or you're taking us on too. Russia, big taco in this case. I mean, it is kind of interesting, right? Russia, I mean, literally Russia's not even saying like, you better watch it. You better not go more, right? Russia's just like, I mean, Syria is an interesting situation. Syria, we don't know if it's totally true, but the reports from Syria are that the Syrian government kind of said, the new Syrian government, remember the dictator got overthrown? Well, the dictator, guess who he was in cahoots with? The Iranian government. They were best buddies with the Syrian dictator. The people in charge of Syria now, not so thrilled about Iran, since Iran was basically their oppressor, right? Iran was in cahoots with the dictator of Syria. So the current Syrian guys, they don't like the Israelis. I mean, they're like Muslim radicals, really, they are. They're trying to go mainstream. Let's see if they pull it down or if they pull it off. But they are radicals. So they don't like Israel, but they also don't like Iran. So supposedly the story this weekend was that the Syrian government said Israel's fine using our airspace to basically take down, you know, Iranian missiles, because the Iranian missiles kind of arch through. I think things can also go through Jordan, but they go through Syria on the way in. So that's the situation with Syria. Oh, Mimi's leaving us. Bye, Mimi. It was nice having you. Bye-bye. You got her first. Thank you. Actually, Mimi gets a block. I think Mimi gets a block. Yeah, because we don't want Mimi like trolling in the background. Hey, Will. Anyway, I mean, she literally said, well, yes. The new guys running Syria are not Islamic radicals. Really? Really? In fact, they are. They're very scary. They're very scary. They're not mainstream Islam. They're the bad guys. They're very bad guys. I mean, no, but that's what she was complaining about. It was like, come on. Are we technically involved in the war? Of course we are. But we're technically involved in the war in Ukraine too. We're technically involved in a lot of wars. I mean, of course we are. Well, technically, I will say this. It's, honestly, to some degree, thank you, Sebastian. To some degree, you could almost argue we're less involved in Israel than we are in Ukraine in the war, right? Because Israel, we've given Israel all the weapons, but that's a long-standing relationship. We're helping Israel shoot down some missiles coming in, but we're not with the Ukrainians. We literally said, even though Biden dragged his feet and did a bad job, I think, we literally said, ooh, here's a bunch of new weapons you've never had before that you can use to go get the Russians. If I were the Russians, I'd be pretty pissed about that. Now, it's still allowed. Lola, you have not been muted yet because I can see your comment. So no, you're still there. I do not speak Arabic. Was it la? Is it la, I think? Or is la? Is la? No, I don't remember in Arabic. I can swear in Arabic, but I'm not going to do that on the channel right here. Was it my Palestinians? I'm trying to think of who taught me. No, it was, oh my God, it was Syrians. The Syrians in undergraduate taught me how to swear really, really nastily. I can't even say it. It was like, muck. Some of you Arabic speakers might know what it was. Muck. But I'm not going to say it. It was about your mother, and it wasn't very nice. It was 3 words about your mother. It was very nasty. But I still remember it this many years later. So, but I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. Israel really can eliminate the nuke project of Iran. Israel has caused a lot of damage. The concern is, as I was saying at the beginning of the show, that the really important facility they need to go after is underground, and it's really underground. Thank you, Fallen, for the gift. It's really deep underground. Israel's weapons cannot reach it, from what we know. That doesn't mean that Israel hasn't come up with some plan to reach it, because Israel sneaks in pagers and everything else, right? So you never know. But more water? No. She's so bad. She's not even asking for water. The dog, anybody who watches my show regularly knows the dog begs for water during the show, and I've got to give it to her. She's begging for treats right now. She's not even trying to get water. She's so bad. Anyway, so let me just see what else we got going on here. Everyone, literally, the entire media is quoting Trump telling the Iranians to immediately evacuate Tehran. I mean, let's see, guys. Nobody knows what he's up to. This is certainly going to make the Iran. Now, I mean, I don't know. If you're Iran, I'm not sure what. Now, it clearly is Trump trying to push the Iranians to basically say, okay, we give up. We're not going to, we're going to get rid of our enrichment facilities. But damn, this is pretty wild. You're having fun on YouTube today, aren't you? Just looking here. Yeah, nothing. I'm just looking what else here. My TikTok channels that I've got, my YouTube channels that I've got for following news in various regions. And I've got a sort of Israel-Iran channel. Yeah. Okay. No, nothing else here. Well, the Trump stuff, God only knows. Netanyahu probably will be prosecuted. Again, he probably has committed war crimes. He is not my favorite human being, the Prime Minister of Israel. I don't like him. He was actually really great in the 1980s. He was amazing in the 1980s. He was the United Nations ambassador for Israel. Very good. But he, I think, became more radical as he got older, to be honest. Have you seen Iran military tweet recently? No. Are they? I mean, but do they? The White House is retweeting it, although I'm not surprised the White House would retweet it, Now that is true. Now, I will say what's kind of funny though. Remember Trump? Kamala's a warmonger. Biden's a warmonger. There will be no war if Trump is elected. These wars would have never happened if Trump was elected. Trump is now about to start, well, basically get us in a huge war in the Middle East. I mean, a huge war, and get us far more involved than Ukraine. In Ukraine, the Russians aren't attacking us. In this case, Iran could very easily go after U.S. bases in the region. They could try terrorism in Europe. They could try terrorism here at home. I mean, again, that doesn't mean we don't do it. As I said at the beginning of the show, Iran cannot be permitted to have nuclear weapons. And that is clearly, I would say, Democrats and Republicans both in the end, even Democrats, even Republicans too, I would say. I mean, it's an interesting question because you get the MAGA people who don't like military intervention, and then you get Democrats on the left, meaning the left side of Democrats who don't like military intervention. And I would ask both of them, if negotiations don't work and Iran decides to build a nuclear weapon, are you okay with letting them do that? And I just actually, mods, do a poll on that. I'm trying to think of how to say it, but I think I would say, oops, got to adjust my little I'm a real person thing. I think I would say if negotiations, it's kind of too much to say. If negotiations fail, are you okay with Iran getting a nuclear weapon? I don't know whether TikTok's going to like you writing that, but see if you can write that. But I'd be curious how many of you feel that way, because I think most honestly, Europeans, the same thing. It's hard to reword though. It's hard to word it. Yeah. I want to be careful with sort of, I just don't know what I worry about is TikTok might not like words like weapons or bombs or whatever. You know what I mean? They may not like those words. When the poll gets put up, you'll see it automatically on the screen. But I think it's an interesting question for Europeans too, because I think Europeans, maybe more so than Americans, are kind of like, war is not the answer, blah, blah, blah. But would you still feel that way? Actually, that's not a bad idea, saying nuke with an NUC maybe. If Iran negotiations fail and Iran is about to get a NUC, right? Are you okay with that? Thank you, Susie. I mean, but that's what I was going to say for Europeans. Like even Europeans who may not like what Israel's doing, and you may say, no, America shouldn't get involved. Do you think if Iran says we're going to build a nuke right now, would you let that happen, or would you try to stop it militarily? Anyway, just interesting question, I think, because you got to look at it. Because again, the Israel thing is different. Because I think the Israel thing, I still say I'm not sure this had to happen now. I think Israel launched the war a little early, right? So my hypothetical is we didn't launch the war last week. We waited, and there we go. Okay. Oh, obsessed over John's hair. You set up the wrong poll. What's that about? I'm not even sure what that is. All right. Okay, not sure what you did there with the hair. So, I don't mind when they obsess with my hair when they like it. Okay. Yep. White House just reposted it and highlighted everyone should immediately, and White House highlighted everyone should leave Tehran. Well, here's the thing. And again, the idea of going after Iran's nuclear program isn't to save Israel. It's to save us. Look at how much of a bully Russia has been, not just in Ukraine, but in general. And it's because they have nukes. Look at how much of a bully, not just a bully, the Soviet Union imprisoned half of Europe for 45 years. They invaded and took over half of Europe. The Russians did, and controlled it and dominated it under horrific communist dictatorships for 45 years. You know why they got away with it? Because they had nuclear weapons. That's why they got away with it. If Iran gets nuclear weapons, I saw somebody today say, Israel has nukes too. Iran's never going to use them against Israel. Maybe. But look at what the Russians get away with because they have nukes. Iran will now get away with the same thing. Iran has already done horrific things. That was a bad poll. You do realize you asked 2 questions in that poll, so we don't know what's yes and what's no because you have 2 questions. Are you okay with Iran getting a nuke? Would you stop them? That's 2 questions. You can't put 2 questions in one poll. Thank you, but that doesn't work. Yeah, it's got to be one. The question is, if negotiations fail, are you okay with Iran getting a NUC? Maybe use that word instead. If negotiations fail, are you okay with Iran getting a NUC? I guess I would put it that way. I kind of want to ask about the military action, but I just don't know. Well, also the military action thing still begs the question of the issue is, if Iran is going to get a weapon, a nuclear weapon, are you okay with that? Or would you then accept military, agree to military stuff? The polls should just show up at the bottom of the screen, I think. I know it is kind of busy today. It's a big news day. It's a big news day. No, Manana. Manana says, if we really go to war with Iran, do we really want Pete Hegseth in charge of it? No. This is why you don't pick somebody to be Secretary of Defense based on how pretty they are on Fox News. That is not the top qualification for Secretary of Defense. Yet, that is why we've got the current guy there, because he's pretty on Fox News. That's it. It's a very dangerous, but this is what happens. What do you do? It is not okay for the Russians to have a nuke. No, but there's nothing we can do about it, sadly. But they've been terrorizing the world for a very long time because of it. Yeah, this is what's interesting. This was the White House tweet. As you said, the White House retweeted it. Thank you for the gift there, Felicia. The White House retweeted Trump's comment and then yellowed it to make it even bolder. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. The White House is clearly threatening to bomb Iran. The question is whether this is Trump posturing or what. Now, the problem is, thank you again, Felicia. The problem with this tweet from Trump is, if we don't bomb Iran, then it's going to look like the American, that Trump threatens and doesn't follow, that Trump's a taco, that he caves on everything. Except Trump does cave on everything, so I don't know if he cares. But this is what you don't make threats like this unless you're planning on following through. And if Iran says screw you, and the U.S. doesn't enter the war, he bombed Yemen. Don't know what you mean. Well, he failed against Yemen. Trump bombed Yemen and then gave up a month later. Very interesting, though, what's going on with this. Wow. We're not going to go too much longer because of my voice thing again. Iran does have an agreement with Russia, but the Russians aren't helping. It's very weird. But Iran already has an agreement with Russia. Israel's blowing the crap out of Iran. The Russians aren't doing anything. You know what I mean, Louis? They're not. So, Russia could threaten us. Honestly, I'd almost like Russia to threaten us because then Trump finally has a nice clean break with Putin. But the Russians, my guess is the Russians might say, America, don't you dare, right? But they were supposed to help they were supposed to help Iran if Israel ever invaded, and they never did. So, but yeah, that White House thing is really interesting. I'm trying to see what else is on here. Pretty wild. I'm just trying to see here. Everyone just keeps retweeting Trump's stuff. Trump's crazy tweet. Yeah. So bottom line is Trump tweeted telling everyone to evacuate Tehran, which suggests the U.S. is about to bomb. We have no idea if that's what's going on. It's I'm laughing because it's just so bizarre. Again, Panetta is on TV. Oh, he's very good. Yeah. He was, obviously, I'm curious what he's saying. He was Obama's CIA director. I don't think he was defense as well. He was CIA. Leon Panetta. Well, no, he was CIA, but he was also like, yeah, whatever. I do answer questions. Second Dawn number 2. Oh, we've got the, thank you. We're doing the Egyptian thing again. I still think that Egyptian gift is a little questionable. It's very funny, but it's a little questionable, but it is very cool. Heavy explosions in Tehran. King Tut, let me pull up. Now I'm going to put on my CNN and see what's going on. But hang on. Oops, Aaron Burnett. Let's see, Aaron, what's going on on CNN? Join live.
Reach some kind of agreement. The second choice is to join this war, have the United States join the war, and be able to go after their nuclear capability.
See what he says. 1 second.
Literally try to destroy Iran. The problem with that is that it would result in retaliation against the United States.
But
and in the end, the reality is that kind of full-scale war against Iran results in the United States being part of a Middle East war. That's something that Trump didn't want for the United States.
So what?
The third option is to stay out of it. That's pretty much what Trump is doing right now. But it's an approach that basically says let the players kill each other, let them exhaust themselves.
Yeah, I'm not sure Panetta is saying anything that interesting. So interesting. So the results of the poll were 87% say if negotiations fail, they are not okay with Iran getting a nuke. See, that's the thing. That's why I've been I have come to this over the last few days, and I've been trying to sort of, put it in words well, but that everyone who thinks this is terrible what Israel's doing, thank you, Chazak. We're doing a dragon. Everyone who thinks it's terrible what Israel is doing. The real issue is it's terrible that Israel is doing this so soon. That's the problem. The problem isn't going after Iran's nuclear facilities. The problem is doing it so soon that possibly they should have waited. It was a little early, right? The negotiations were dragging out. They weren't over yet. Thank you, Necessary Trouble. But if the negotiations fail, there is no choice. No, but it is, Greg. It is soon in the sense that Trump had his chance to negotiate. He gave them 60 days, and 60 days has passed, but Trump is still negotiating with them now. You at least have to see what happens with those negotiations, even though they look like they're over. They weren't really over. They were going to meet yesterday. I think they should have at least waited to see for Trump's negotiations to truly be over, and then you go in. Then you go in. As I said, for my take, Israel's only possible mistake is going in too early. But otherwise, I think the U.S. would be doing exactly this. But Iran has, Lisa, that's what you're not understanding, is people have been saying Iran is on the verge of getting nuclear weapons for years because Iran has been on the verge of getting nuclear weapons for years. They've been choosing not to do it because they're afraid of getting blown up by the U.S. and by Israel. That's why Iran has not yet gotten a nuclear weapon. But they've been on the verge of it because they got really close and then they've been holding back because they're afraid of what's going to happen to them if they do it. So yes, for years, people have been warning this because for years, Iran has been right on the edge and waiting to do that final little step. So yeah. No, I mean, that's sort of indisputable. It's not that anybody made up that Iran was close. It's Iran is really close, but Iran basically, it's like when you see, although I'm a sci-fi fan, they build the super weapon and they get everything but one piece. And that one piece they have to put in the super. This is, of course, Stargate reference, but for anybody else, they have that one piece that goes into the super weapon and then it turns it on, right? Well, they built the super weapon and they're missing the one piece, metaphorically speaking, with nukes. They actually have several pieces to go, but they built most of it. Meaning the processes, the uranium, they've gotten most of the way, but not all the way. And they've been kind of holding back on finishing the end of it. Although the end of it is several pieces. It's the uranium, it's the delivery system, it's the bomb, blah, blah, blah. So that's why they've been so close for years, because they have been. Well, that's the risk too. The only thing is, Robert said negotiate until they already have nukes. I was reading this today, and if what I'm reading is correct, that it would be very difficult for Iran to build a nuke without us knowing. Now, again, I would defer to some of the nuclear experts on that. But at least what I was reading today suggested that it would be very difficult for Iran to say, that's it, we're finishing our nuke, we're going to get it done in the next year. If they started doing it, our spy satellites would know. The Israeli spies would know, because Israel has so infiltrated Iran that basically we would all know. That's what I heard today, at least. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but Alec, I can't imagine invading. Alex says, I wonder if we would invade or just do airstrikes. I think it's airstrikes. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine it would be invading. Groups on the ground, would be just crazy. Oh, we've got a troll again. Oh, I'm forgetting about that. Hold on. I need to, oops. There we go. I was going to let some of the TikTok folks know. Anyway, but as I said, it's not Israel's war. This is our war. This isn't about saving Israel. This is about Iran getting nuclear weapons. By the way, you want another North Korea, but you want North Korea, as crazy as it is kind of in its little neighborhood and this is venturing out finally, right? North Korea is finally venturing out and causing shit in Ukraine. Up until now, not as crazy what North Korea has been doing, right? You want Iran to do the same thing? But except that Iran has been crazy activist, has been absolutely crazy activist, No, that's TikTok's automatic filtering thing. So this has everything to do. This is only about nuclear weapons. It is. You may not like Israel. Israel's doing this because of Iran getting nuclear weapons. Again, whether you like Israel or not, that's a different question. But thank you, JPT. Anyway, guys, all right, I'm going to go because we're at 20 after, and I need to. Explosions heard in Tehran. Air defense is activated. Although explosions in Tehran don't really mean much. I mean, Israel could be doing it anyway. Yes, I do, D. Because I do not oppose military actions. World War II was a just war. World War I was a just war. We should have gotten into both of them earlier. Sometimes you need to take military action for the greater good. You do. I'm not a pacifist, But the trick is knowing when you should and when you shouldn't, right? George Bush lied. First Gulf War, George Bush's father, great president, got us into a good war. We saved Kuwait. Second Gulf War was a lie. And it was bad. Helping the Ukrainians, good. Russia invading Ukraine, bad. You can have wars that are good and wars that are bad. But sometimes you need to, All right, guys, I'm going to go because we've been doing this for an hour and 20. And also, if the U.S. ends up invading, we're going to come back on the air. But final thing, aviation is about the Iranians rising up. Who knows? I would want an Iranian to give us a better sense of whether the Iranian people are going to rise up. They've tried to rise up before. They did start to rise up a couple of years ago. The police state is very effective at killing them when they do that in Iran, as we saw a couple of years ago. And before that as well. They've arrested a lot of the kids. They killed a lot of them. So, police states are very good at stopping people from rising up, but who knows? Hey, Fallen. Oh, hey, Rami. We're just signing off right now. It's nice to have somebody from Syria. I was telling earlier about my one phrase in Arabic I know, which I can't say, was taught to me by two Syrian friends in undergraduate at Illinois. They were engineering students from Syria, from Damascus. And they taught me how to say something very bad in Arabic that I will not say because TikTok will get very upset. So, but anyway, it was I'm like laughing telling you about it. Oh, and Isa from Afghanistan. That's fascinating too. Wow. We're getting all the cool people now. All right. let's go, guys. I try not to do too long of a show because of my voice. If the U.S. ends up bombing, I'll come back. But otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Back at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Okay. All right. Have a good night, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This was good. There's a lot of news tonight. I mean, not a lot of news on this front, obviously. Man. All right. Man, it's just you over on Discord. All right. Bye, TikTok or YouTube. All right, TikTok. Now I've got to do